Game 7 everyone. Guys, today Florida Panthers need our support absolutely the most of their entire franchise history. We've been going to this cup for 30 years, so guys, let's please write in the comments, let's go Panthers, which is, to be honest, funny, because by the time you're going to be watching this video, it will be determined as the winner of the Stanley Cup, but I believe until the end. Let's go Panthers. What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude, and let's get straight to the point, talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Okay, so you remember I've been talking about this Putin's made their own Olympic Games called BRICS Games. And well, apparently the first results came in after one of the very first weeks, and Team Russia won 312 medals. I don't know if this is every single medal they could have potentially won, or maybe there are just 3 countries participating, so no matter which place you take, there will be a medal, either gold, silver or bronze. But yeah, once again, this reminds me of this movie Dictator with the Sacha Baron Cohen, where you just, if you cannot participate in international tournaments, you create your own games, simple as that, the greatest country in the world. Well, yeah, now let's talk about some serious stuff. First of all, let me give you a brief update from the south, and our first stop brings us to Crimea, where, guys, you probably heard about this already, but reportedly there was some very loud noises in one of Crimean beaches in Sevastopol. And what happened is that the Russian air defense intercepted at least 4 ATACMS missiles on top of literally civilians. Unfortunately, there are casualties, unfortunately hundreds of them were injured, but as you can see from this satellite image, the Russian military base was literally like 3-4 kilometers away from this location. So the mistake number 1 is that you know there is war going on, you know Ukrainians target Crimean Peninsula at this point every single day. And there is still this beach existing, there is no restrictions, no nothing, people go there like there is nothing. And the mistake number 2 is that obviously ATACMS, they have a range of hundreds of kilometers. So Russian air defense could have intercepted it literally anywhere. But for some reason, which, to be honest, I will tell you my assumption and let me know if you agree with this or not. So long story short, Russian air defense could have intercepted this anywhere they wanted, but they specifically decided to do it on top of the beach, which once again led to unnecessary casualties. And guess what? The very first thing the Russian propaganda started to claim is that there was a deliberate, precise attack by Ukrainians against this specific location, which once again absolutely does not make sense. ATACMS of Ukrainians is in very limited supplies, they cannot waste them attacking residential neighborhoods, so it just simply does not make sense. But what does make sense is the narrative of the propaganda. Look at this, bad Ukrainians, justifying the war in Ukraine once again, and our main goal is to fight against those Ukrainians. And guess what? One of the very first official statements from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Russia is that there is absolutely not a single doubt that Americans were also involved on this attack. And just to once again confirm that Ukrainians are doing high precision attacks against the position of Russians. For example, right here is the video from Kherson, where they're using GMLRS, which are, by the way, not that precise as ATACMS, and they were still able to literally pinpoint destroy the concentration of Russian military equipment. In Zaporozhye, right here is yet another video where electronic warfare system of Russians was successfully split into atoms by Ukrainians as well. And now, as we go to the east of Ukraine, our first stop we just have to make on the territory of Russia. First of all, for example, right here is the video from the capital, Moscow, where a local enterprise which is producing radio equipment, including most of it goes obviously to the Ukrainian front lines. Well, spontaneously it got caught on fire. The official version is there was some kind of a malfunction with the electronics. Next is the video from Belgorod, where Ukrainians were able to find and destroy a pretty innovative and relatively modern Russian air defense system called PANTHERS. In Berestovo, located next to Vovhcansk Frontline, is a pretty extraordinary video which shows the awareness of the Z army, because there is an infantry fighting vehicle called BMP-2 driving along the road, and then eventually it sees already 3 other military vehicles of Russians being destroyed. And I would not be surprised if there was literally a sign which says minefield ahead. Well, the driver of this BMP-2 is like, well, I will be better than those guys who were before me and I will keep driving. Well, guess what? As a result, he got an underground surprise by Ukrainians delivered straight to him exactly in the same place. Besides that, right here is another video consequences of a Ukrainian heavy drone called Baba Yaga, which literally left nothing from the Russian T-80 tank. And ultimately is one more video from Ukrainian FPV drone, which shows the total obliteration of a Russian self-propelled artillery system called Gvozdika. But the most extraordinary news of the last several days, specifically from the east, is that according to the representative of Ukrainian armed forces Nazar Voloshin, finally, the withdrawal of the Russian forces from the Kharkiv Frontline, specifically next to Vovhcansk city, started to happen. The withdrawal was recorded near settlements of Liptsy and Tikhy. What he means by that is that in the last several days total, there was not a single combat activity presented by the ZE army, and you can definitely see the reduction of numbers among their ranks. And even one of the most recent reports by the Institute for the Study of War records exactly the very same thing. They do see the decrease in the activity by the ZE army along Kharkiv Frontline, once again mainly next to the city of Vovhcansk. And most likely the reason for this is something what we guys already mentioned a couple of weeks ago. Is that there was a main assumption, I was making a main assumption that this whole offensive of the ZE army against Kharkiv was just a distraction, with the sole purpose not to advance to Kharkiv, not to capture any major settlements, but instead is to draw the attention of Russians from other front lines, specifically from the south and from the east. As a result of this, nothing along Kharkiv was achieved by the ZE army, and you can only imagine the morale conditions of those Russian soldiers. I mean, imagine, literally you've been sent to these front lines, to this grinder, with the sole purpose of just distracting Ukrainians. You don't have an end goal, you don't have a city to capture, you don't have a land to advance. You are just serving as a distraction. Pretty much your destiny is already predetermined for you. And because of this, I mean, no wonder Russians failed in Kharkiv frontline completely, but at the same time this was not allowing them to distract as many Ukrainians as they wanted to, because still along southern and eastern front lines Ukrainians continue to maintain a very good level of defenses. However, some advancements, minor ones, were recorded by the Institute for the Study of War nevertheless. Specifically, some of the cities you're already familiar with, where Russians were able to achieve a very slight progress, are Svatove, Chasiv Yar and Avdiivka. And right here, for example, it shows you the changes in territorial control next to the settlement Toretsky, which by some people is seen by potentially next big city which Russians will try to capture. And another city along Donetsk front line is Nova Alexandrivka, which Russians hastily tried to claim that they were able to capture it. In the very best traditions of the Z propaganda, as soon as they enter the city, they immediately claim that it has fallen to their hands. Well, apparently, as you can see even from this map, Nova Alexandrivka is still debatable city. There is still no full control by the ZE army. And well, there you have it, guys. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel. If this information was useful for you, please go ahead and check my Patreon if you want to see fully uncensored episode of the Russian Dudes. Receive those episodes in the early access, and all the other useful links are down below. My PayPal donations, once again Patreon, Instagram, and of course merch, hoodies, pens, t-shirts, cases. Everything is down below. Thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.